Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Outlook and discussion for Friday the 20th of July 2018. Real quick look at things. Not a lot to talk about today, so this will be fairly quick. Nothing expected in the Atlantic over the next 48 hours, and the same holds true for the next 5 days. So if you have any cruises planned out here, no problems at all. Nothing in the Caribbean, Gulf, or the Southwest Atlantic, anywhere for that matter. Nice and quiet, and that includes, for the most part, too, the Eastern Pacific, and you can see that here. Even though they are lined up, let's mouse over them because there is more information if you do that. This reveals the, I guess you could call it, reading between the lines, or the facts beneath the surface, whatever. That's only 30% over the next 5 days. This is up to 60%. However, really not looking that favorable out there, honestly. 60%, that's still only medium, and then this system, only 40%. So despite this activity out here, you might be like, oh, here we go, we're going to get a bunch of hurricanes. Yeah, maybe one, but something is going on, and this area is not as busy and as intense as I think a lot of people thought it might be. And that's interesting because we're getting to the time of year where either nothing's going to happen at all anywhere to speak of, maybe a couple of typhoons, and the Atlantic will just be dead, which I can't believe that, or one of the basins will take over and become very active, and that happened last year. I'm not saying there will be a repeat of last year, but the Atlantic basin was very busy. So maybe something similar will occur this year where we have a burst over a 6-week period where the Atlantic basin stays very, very busy. We'll have to wait and see about that. I'm just kind of speculating. It's just curious that nothing of any consequence is able to get going out in this region, despite the fact that the Pacific's warmer. We're supposed to be going towards this El Nino. We had the positive Pacific meridional mode that Eric Webb talked about several weeks ago on this broadcast that we do here, this video post. He was a guest. You got to check that one out. I don't remember what day it was, but nevertheless, there you go. Now I'm starting to ramble. So let's move on to the Atlantic basin, and just to kind of show you what nothing looks like. Seinfeld was a show about nothing, they said. Well, here's what nothing looks like as far as tropical activity. Saharan air, you can even see that on this infrared shot. The intertropical convergence zone, dry. The main development region, dry. No convective activity to speak of, just lots of Saharan dust. I've heard from a few people, including down here in Barbados and Jamaica, and where else? I think I heard from Puerto Rico too, about all the Saharan dust in the air, and it's just yucky. It will eventually dissipate, and you'll have to start watching for hurricanes at some point. I think it's coming. Is it going to be like last year? There's no way you can have a repeat spot on of the year before. It just doesn't happen in nature. You can have similar patterns, but to expect another Irma, Jose, and Maria, I highly doubt it. But we'll worry about that later. For now, the weekend looks nice, except for this mess along the southeast coast. This is a non-tropical system. We've got a trough of low pressure digging in, and it's going to cut off to this upper level low kind of deal. I'll show you that in a minute. And so it's the atmosphere injecting a lot of energy into this, creating this surface low. We had the severe weather yesterday, the tragedy on the lake in Missouri as a result of that derecho, the tornadoes in Iowa. It is a very active pattern up here as energy is coming out from the upper Midwest, and it's hot as all get out west, and this is digging in, and you get this surface low. It's kind of like what we see in the wintertime, honestly, and except it's July 20th. So there will be a coastal storm that rides up the coast. That's why we call it a coastal storm, and it will bring gale force winds, rough seas, beach erosion, coastal flooding, except it won't be a tropical cyclone. This is going to be a mid-latitude storm that happens to be near the coast. But don't take it lightly in terms, especially if you're out on a boat. Be real careful, okay? And if you're headed down to the beach, well, it's going to rain a lot. So just be aware of it, but no, it's not anything that's going to get a name. I don't even know if the National Hurricane Center would mention it, maybe to put everybody's mind at ease as to, well, what is this thing blowing up? So just, be aware of it. All right, let's move on. I want to show you just kind of another angle on things, how dry it is for the most part, especially in this area. But look at this, a large area of moisture coming out over the tropical Atlantic here. And you can see that extending north of 20 degrees latitude now, and more energy going to be gathering over Africa. Seeing some intriguing tweets from Eric Webb again about the possibility of this convectively coupled Kelvin wave that'll be moving across the deep tropics over the next couple of weeks or so. And once that reaches Africa and really sets off these AEWs, or these African easterly waves, it'll be close to early to mid-August at that point. The main development region is about where it should be, just slightly below average overall. It's a very different look than it was in June overall. Doesn't mean we're going to have a hyperactive season, but what is that expression, yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus, or something like that? I think we can say, yes, Virginia, there's going to be a hurricane season in the Atlantic. But to what extent, I can't put my finger on it. Honestly, if I could, I would tell you. We'll just have to wait and see. But for now, it's July 20th, and this is what the tropics typically would look like. I am not surprised. All right, so just real quick to kind of recap what's happening over the lower 48. Yes, there is this coastal storm that will move up across this area. But look at all the heat advisories out here. Wow. Reading from Dave Nussbaum down here in New Orleans, a TV meteorologist, and dew point of 81 degrees in NOLA. Oh, wow. You walk outside and that air just has to just floor you. I mean, I've felt that before. Trust me. I mean, I know, but it's like, man. And then on the other side of that, I'm guessing it's not quite as humid through here, and certainly not out there in the desert southwest. Very, very hot, as this big ridge of high pressure, this heat dome, is going to stay parked over the southwest, and eventually it will cool down in Texas and elsewhere. Kind of a trophy pattern in this region through here, and the Bermuda High looks to build back in eventually, and we'll get to that, probably talk about it more next week. But for now, yep, a little bit stormy this weekend right along the coast for now. Outer Banks of North Carolina, get ready. Probably a little bit of wind and rain, and maybe some of that rain slapping against the window, but nothing to fear in terms of a tropical storm coming, anything like that. If you hear or read about that on social media, somebody saying, tropical storm or whatever, just ignore it. It is a summertime coastal storm that is not tropical in origin at all. It's attached to a front. It's part of the upper levels of the atmosphere conspiring to make a coastal storm, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, a little bit of a miserable weekend, if you want to be out on the beaches of North Carolina and up the coast. Sure, it's going to be a little bit sucky, but at least it's not, a hurricane coming. But, for today and then for parts of Saturday, at least up here, not too bad, especially the further north you get. What else? Let me show you the models here. I was just thinking. So this is a different vantage point. This is North America. Let me just outline what's what, and then I got to change the vantage point again. Eastern Massachusetts, New Jersey, the Carolinas, there's Florida, so forth and so on. Okay? So this is the 10-meter wind and precipitation. I just want to kind of show you how things evolve over the next 3 days. This is 72 hours. So again, here's eastern North Carolina, and then here's your surface low that gets developed up the Delmarva. And you notice, let me just get this to red, and this will recycle again in just a moment. You notice that it spreads, right up the coast here, right here. There it is, right off of Charleston and vicinity. Low pressure takes shape over Hatteras, up the Delmarva, and then pinwheels into eastern New Jersey, maybe west of Secaucus or something, I don't know. But rain, southerly fetch, muggy, just kind of like stay inside and hang out with the family kind of weekend. I don't know. But you notice, too, you got this low pressure back here, and the whole thing is spinning counterclockwise. Why is it doing that? Well, here I can show you the same thing from a different perspective. This is 500 millibars into the atmosphere, or about 18,000 feet or so. And look at all that energy right there. That's why we're getting this coastal storm here and up the coast. Watch how that happens. See it? Right there. Up it goes. And it's this upper level energy that's responsible for it, not a tropical wave or an upper level low out over the ocean that turns into something. This is all generally what we call baroclinic processes, where the atmosphere is inducing the storm, just like we see in a nor'easter. If this was February and we had enough cold air along the East Coast, oh yeah, this would be one of those kind of storms. But it's not. It's July, and we just have to deal with it. Notice, too, over the next 72 hours, that heat ridge, my goodness, that is a big dome of high pressure sitting out there over, look at that at the end, it almost anchors itself over the Four Corners region. Very, very hot. That will somewhat limit the monsoonal action, but you see these little impulses, these little blips of energy. You never know where those are going to pop up, and when they do, those are little disturbances inside of the overall pattern. Those can spawn flash flooding. There was thunderstorms in the Vegas Valley yesterday that knocked down power lines, and it's just impossible to know where those will pop up. The GFS trying to help with that. Typically, let me just freeze this because I want to kind of show you, because I'm very interested in the monsoon. That's not a typical monsoon setup. Normally, if the high pressure is like over here and you get that clockwise flow around it, pumping moisture up this way, that's more helpful. Generally speaking, with it parked right on top of you, the thunderstorm activity is going to be extremely, extremely variable and widespread. So check this out. I tweeted about this before I recorded the video. Either the plotting of the MJO on this particular phase diagram here, or sorry, the RMM, yeah, I mean, it shows the phases. It is a phase diagram, the different phases of the MJO. Something's either broken with that, or there will be typhoons to end all typhoons in the Westpac. And then eventually, the day after tomorrow, basically, something's wrong with the thing, obviously. I'm just kidding. So let's look at the other version. Oh, there we go, the ECMWF. That, by the way, is the GFS and its ensembles. But the Euro comes to the rescue, a little bit more tolerable here. This is the MJO right now. This is where it is forecast. What does all of that mean, you ask? Well, it shows me that the favorability in the atmosphere for upward motion, the wet phase of the MJO, whatever you want to call it, the Madden-Julian oscillation, is going into the null phase over the next couple of weeks or so. And then what I suspect will happen is we will see it reemerge via this beginning convectively coupled Kelvin wave, and it'll probably pass through this region. So let's wait and see. The fact that there's no discernible MJO activity coming up, we don't see it just coming around or amplifying and sitting over the Westpac, something's got to give, and I think the Atlantic Basin is almost ready for showtime. A couple more weeks or so, maybe longer, but with very little activity in the Pacific, it certainly makes me wonder. All right, so over the weekend, I'll post a couple of updates tomorrow and Sunday. We'll just kind of monitor things with that coastal storm. Obviously, I'm not going up to Long Island or anywhere. Just, what am I going to do? I mean, there's so many people already there. You'll see plenty of things on social media. There's nothing much for me to contribute, and the funding that I do have, I need to conserve it for hurricane season proper, if you will, and I think that is the wise move. Excellent group of people that support me financially, so we have to spend those funds. They are not unlimited, so we have to spend them wisely. and this weekend a trip to Long Island or whatever, eastern Jersey. I love it up there, don't get me wrong, but what am I going to do? I mean, hey, it's raining and it's a little breezy. I really don't see what I can contribute outside of what we will already see on social media. And I know a lot of folks up there. I can just ask them, what's happening? And maybe we can cite some of them on their social media, and I can show you. That's an easier, cheaper method, I think. Have a good rest of your Friday. I appreciate you tuning in. I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. We'll chat a few more times over the weekend.